Okay, so President Biden is being sued by Florida Democrats. They are suing the Biden administration over marijuana and guns. So let's check this out. This is from NBC News. Excuse me. Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried's lawsuit. Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried's lawsuit targets a federal requirement that prohibits medical marijuana users from purchasing firearms. Florida's lone statewide elected Democrat, Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried, plans to sue the Biden administration I read that twice. Wednesday, to try to block a federal rule that prohibits medical marijuana users from buying guns or maintaining concealed carry permits. NBC News obtained a draft copy of the lawsuit. The lawsuit targets a federal form that asks whether the gun buyer is an unlawful user of drugs and specifies that marijuana is illegal under federal law. A person allowed by the state to use marijuana must then check yes, which results in denial of the purchase. Lying by check no runs the risk of a 5-year prison sentence for making a false statement. Fried, whose office oversees concealed weapons permits and regulates some aspects of medical marijuana, argues in her lawsuit that the form violates the Second Amendment rights of lawful medical marijuana patients and runs afoul of a congressional budget prohibition on federal agents interfering with state-sanctioned cannabis laws. The suit has ramifications beyond Florida. At least 37 states have legalized medical marijuana, and recreational use is legal in 18 states as well as Guam and Washington, D.C. The lawsuit is timed to land on April 20th, a nod to the slang reference of 420. That's funny. The suit is laden with political opportunity for Fried, who became the only Democrat elected statewide in 2018 when she ran on an unabashedly pro-cannabis platform. 2 years before, 71% of Florida voters legalized medical marijuana, and polls show a majority favor legalization of recreational use. Florida has also 2.5 million concealed weapons permit holders, according to Fried's office. Medical marijuana is legal, guns are legal. This is all about people's rights, Fried said in a statement to NBC News, and I don't care who I have to sue to fight for their freedom. In her official capacity as Agriculture Commissioner, Fried is bringing the suit with 3 citizens who have been affected by the federal rules. It names the acting head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and Attorney General Merrick Garland as defendants. It's rare for a Democrat to sue a Democratic administration during an election year. Fried said the issue can no longer wait because of the volume of complaints her office has received. A spokesperson for the ATF said the agency can't speculate on possible litigation or discuss any pending litigation, but implicitly blamed federal lawmakers for not changing the Controlled Substances Act and the Gun Control Act, which respectively regulate marijuana and firearms. President Joe Biden's refusal to act on federal marijuana regulations has been a sore point for Democrats, including supporters like John Morgan, a Florida trial lawyer and Biden fundraiser who financed the state's successful medical marijuana initiative. I talked to Joe about this personally, and he just won't do it. Joe Biden doesn't understand marijuana. Morgan said, attributing the president's resistance to his age, 79, and the members of his family who suffer from alcoholism and drug abuse, including his son Hunter Biden. Joe has so much drug abuse in his own family that in his mind, it is a no-go. The older you get, the less people understand what marijuana is all about. To them, it's all the same. Marijuana, heroin, LSD. Morgan said, dismissing the idea that such substances are so-called gateway drugs with a profanity. We know the gateway drug is alcohol. Although he likes Fried's marijuana policy, Morgan is backing her rival in the governor's race, Representative Charlie Crist, and he said he's not sure how much political mileage she can get out of it. Fried's former pollster Keith Frederick said any risks for her by bucking the Biden agenda are offset because she's raising her profile by embracing a popular issue. You can have the best affordable housing plan possible, but once you get to point number 2, people's eyes glaze over and they stop paying attention, Frederick said. People care about this. Support for medical marijuana and cannabis legalization cuts across party lines, as is opposition to the conflicting regulations in state and federal law. Gun rights are also generally popular in Florida. Fried's lawsuit notes that even conservative Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas groused in an unrelated case about the half-in, half-out regime that simultaneously tolerates and forbids the use of marijuana. This contradictory and unstable state of affairs strains basic principles of federalism and conceals traps for the unwary, Thomas said. Other plaintiffs have tried and failed to sue the federal government over gun purchases. Freed's lawsuit singles out the most recent lawsuit for presenting a thin and stale factual record that improperly ignored a federal study concluding that the marijuana does not induce violent crime. In addition, unlike the other unsuccessful federal case, Freed's lawsuit argues that the form violates the so-called Robichaud-Farr Amendment, which prohibits ATF from enforcing anti-cannabis policies in states that have opted for legalization. Freed's office said that instead of accommodating states that have legalized marijuana, ATF changed its gun buying form, known as a 4473, by specifically adding, warning, the use or possession of marijuana remains under federal law regardless of whether it has been legalized or decriminalized for medicinal or recreational purpose in the state in which you reside. So, what does that tell you? I mean, listen, props to her for suing the administration. But, I mean, did anybody really expect anything different? It's Joe Biden who, in the 80s, was it the 80s or was it the 90s? I'm pretty sure that it was the 80s, wrote the crime bill, which targeted African Americans and poor white people and poor Asian people and just poor people, period. It put poor people at a higher risk of going to prison for minor crimes. And so, since I am a constitutionalist and I truly believe that every single amendment is sacred, I can't say 1 minute that I support Colin Kaepernick, but then the second say that they should be able to take your guns away. While I believe that that AR-15s should not be legal, just like how the Founding Fathers believed that, cannons and rockets should not be legal as a firearm, I don't think that people who are going to buy marijuana should be told that they can't have a gun. I just don't, because, I feel like if you're a responsible gun owner and you've proved it, and the same thing applies, if you're going to responsibly use weed and not do anything stupid with it, then I personally don't understand why you can't own a gun. Now, I would understand if they were legalizing I don't know, crack or heroin or something, and you didn't want someone to have a gun. I would probably bite the bullet on that one and say, yeah, you should not be allowed to have a gun. But for weed, you should be allowed to have a gun. I still don't think it should be an AR, but I think you should be allowed to have a gun. There's this meme that I see throughout social media. I want to be able to protect my weed farm with my gun. And I mean, I think that kind of applies. I'm for the rights of all people, and I'm for all rights. So if someone tries to take that right away, I'm going to call them out on it. But at the same time, though, the Constitution can, and at times, I think, needs to be changed. And it's not to say, to take a right away. I think that amendments can be amended. I personally think that they should go into the Constitution and they should be hey, let's just ban AR-15s, end the conversation, but not take away the guns that people already have. I'm saying take them off of the market. That's the argument that I am making, is to take the ARs that are meant for police officers and meant for people that are in the military and any sort of special forces, take those off of the market, because a normal person does not need that in order to defend themselves. So with that being said, I feel like this is just another quintessential story about how our president and how I'd say the last 3 to 4 presidents, maybe even 5, don't understand, or they're so out of touch with like the issues that they don't understand that like weed doesn't hurt people, it doesn't kill people, and it's not the gateway that they're making that out to be. Like it said in that article, it's probably alcohol more so that is the gateway drug than marijuana is. And I feel like if people were to understand that, then things would go a lot smoother. And I personally don't think you should go to jail for having marijuana. And if you're selling the normal stuff and not that lace shit that has the heroin and, you know, the rat tar and the fentanyl in it, if you're selling just straight weed, I don't think that you should be in prison either. And I think that when you get out of jail, your record should be wiped clean, because it's not harmful if you're smoking, or if you're selling the, you know, legit stuff. It's not bad. So I don't know. I just found that to be extremely interesting, and I think that what this shows is that just how out of touch Joe Biden is. But the thing is, though, is that like whenever Trump was in office, there was Trump, and then now Biden, and, you know, Obama, Bush, Clinton. They have the power to effectively legalize marijuana, but they just choose not to. And they never really give a reason, because honestly, whenever like a campaign season comes around, it's never really brought up all that much, is it? Like the fact that why a person running for president wouldn't legalize marijuana. It's the same thing with like the student loan debt that we'll be getting to on my show on Friday. It's the fact that like Trump could have legalized marijuana and I would have given him credit for it. Obama could have done it. Bush could have done it. Clinton could have done it. Reagan could have done it. No, they just chose not to do it. And so I feel like the issue is that the prison industry makes them so much money, and these people, don't get it twisted, are bought and paid for by every single type of lobbyist that there is out there, and every special interest. And they will do everything that they can to keep fucking you until the people elect a president who will legalize marijuana and will take it to the industries. So, just thought that was an interesting story.